God, do I hope there's a WNBA walkout. I do. I hope the women of the WNBA walk out like they're threatening. The WNBA's Players Union. They announced that the players will opt out of their current collective bargaining agreement with the league. That's right. They're opting out. They have that option. They announced just a day after the WNBA finals concluded that the New York Liberty, New York, which is good for the league, won. Big market. It won. Caitlin Clark, not a big market, but a big star. So they've won. But the league has lost, as we've talked about, $40 million even this year. Now, I put that out on Twitter, and people are like, how's that possible? They had bigger crowds. No, they didn't. Yes, they had bigger crowds. Yes, they did. Let me back up. But we only saw the good stuff. We only saw the Caitlin Clark, maybe a little bit of Angel Reese when she played Caitlin Clark, but everybody else playing in 4,000, 5,000 seat arenas until Caitlin Clark came in. Yeah, viewership was up. Yes, they signed a new TV deal, which is going to pump $2 billion into the league, but they're still projected to lose money. But the WNBA Players Association, well, they think they're worth more, and good for them. God bless them. I hope they are. They should get every dime that they deserve. But I also think that they should pay back the money lost. It's like this. It's like a golfer that has a bunch of guys sponsoring him, right? That's how you make the PGA Tour unless you're Tiger Woods and have Nike. But you get guys sponsoring, you play on some tours, you got to live, right? You got to go by car or by plane to get to the event. You got to stay in a hotel. Gas costs money. You got to eat, those kind of things. So guys will get what's called a syndicate to sponsor them, and that syndicate will get paid back by purse money. So maybe 5% of what the kid earns will go back to try to pay off the debt of the people that sponsored him. Well, the WNBA has essentially been sponsored for 28 years. And every year they're losing money. See, these players like Angel Reese are complaining that, hey, look, I can't live in my $8,000 a month apartment, condo, whatever. She's living above her means because she's really stupid. But anyway, the deal is this. So the WNBA now is like, look, we're on the rise. We want more money. Well, the WNBA in the real world would be paying some of it back. My friend John Buzzard always says sports are not the real world, and he's right. So these women have been sucking on the teat of the NBA for years and years and years, almost 3 decades now. And now, the one time they brought in a star that wasn't lesbian, that wasn't angry, that wasn't unlikable, Caitlin Clark is the anti all of those things. They started getting popular. Now they want their scratch. It has been assumed that the players would opt out, which they also did in 2018 for their previous CBA. The current agreement was reached January 2020, one of the first major accomplishments for the league under Kathy Engelbert, who took over in 19. The players had until November 1 to opt out, but made the announcement with the impact of the best of 5 WNBA final still resonating in the sports world. Now, I don't know if that's being facetious or that's ESPN being ESPN. The current agreement lasts through October 31st, 2025, giving the league and the union a year to negotiate the next agreement. All right, that's cool. You got a year. Look, I'm all for sticking it to the man. I am. Stick it to the man. Power to the people. Yeah, 1960s live, baby. But I don't know, man. The man has been propping y'all up for years and years and years and years and years. I mean, damn. 28 years old. Some people retire at 28 that are really rich. Not really. I was trying to think of a good analogy to talk about being 28, but I really have one. But anyway, that's 7 4-year stretches of college. There you go. I don't know. Opting out isn't just about a bigger paycheck. It's about claiming our rightful share of the business we've built. Really? All right. Improving working conditions, securing a future where the success we create benefits today's players and generations to come. That's Women's National Basketball Players Association President NKMBA of the Storm. Well, what about paying back the money that you lost, these investors? Does that ever factor in? Or is this only about us? There is no paying back. Yeah, I come from a different world. I understand that. I'm hip, I'm young, I'm mod. I'm all the things that you want to be. But I also come from a different world. I'm thinking to myself, how have you built this? You've built squat. You ladies have built a league that lost $40 million in your 28th year. You haven't built nothing. The NBA, the men have built this. They've subsidized this. So don't come out and act like you've built something. Nobody paid attention to you until you finally decided, hey, look, there's somebody that plays unlike any of us ever has. And she's not gay, angry, and she's kind of cool. And she handles everything well. Caitlin Clark, for those of you keeping score. Anyway, a highly anticipated draft class led by rookie Caitlin Clark of the Fever helped bring greater coverage than ever before. What am I, ridiculous today? To the WNBA. That has added to the league's bottom line and pushed forward discussion of player star power and economic impact. See, you got to understand, ESPN is in bed with the WNBA, and they're in bed with all things woke. But I would argue this all may be true. I'm not saying it's not. Look, people actually do pay attention to Angel Reese. Angel Reese has built her stuff into little dudes getting excited, and then when they see her in person, they're like, oh, I can't tell you how many people have said that to me in the Chicago area. Oh. Anyway, long story short, this is what they're selling. My question is this. What about all the money you've lost? Where's that coming from? Where's that payback? I keep saying it because it keeps being the only thing that really matters to me. Hey, look, your league is taking off. The finals ratings were far better than anybody imagined without Caitlin Clark. Even during the even during the football season, college and pro. People were astounded. There is a report that the finals game was over 2 million viewers, which is great. Absolutely great. I hope it makes money. I want it to make money. It certainly made money for downtown Indianapolis, a city that is still feeling the effects of the idiots that in the summer of love, how ridiculous is that, burned the entire place down. Buildings were lost, small businesses gone, and we have a mayor who is too inept to understand and too politically invested in idiots to understand and build it back. But the WNBA came in with Caitlin Clark this summer, and business was back. People were at bars, restaurants. Place was packed. The area around Gainbridge Fieldhouse, fantastic. So, yes, the economic impact is strong here. I wonder if it even matters in Las Vegas. I wonder if it even matters in New York. I don't know. But I always go back to this. I like when workers get what they have earned. But have the women of the WNBA really earned it? I mean, if we go by a normal business model, a business that has lost millions a year for 28 years, most recently 40 million, would probably shut down. Probably not give the folks responsible for losing that money a raise. Probably not in its 28th year. First or second year, you're trying to build something, yay, rock, go fight, win. But in your 28th year, when you've had 1 year of anybody paying attention, I've told you this before, in Indiana, on the number one sports show in the state of Indiana, before this year, only in 2012, when the Fever won the championship, did I ever discuss the WNBA. Now, you got to understand something about Indy. There's no pro baseball. I mean, there's a minor league team, but I don't talk about it. You got the Cubs way north, the Cardinals way west, and southeast of here, you got Cincinnati. We're kind of in the middle of three teams. There's no real baseball. So what do you talk about? Well, it certainly, until this year, wasn't the Fever. So I digress. You tell me. The popularity, maybe. We'll see. But who pays that money back? I guess if you're an investor, you take the risk. But I certainly aren't giving you a raise for only losing 40 mil. That seems silly to me. Oh, man. Ladies and gentlemen, these next two stories reflect two of my favorite coaches in coaching. I don't care the level. college, high school, pros, semi-pro, G League, don't care. These two coaches, I'm going to start with Joe Mazzulla, the world champion coach of the Boston basketball Celtics. If you come at Joe Mazzulla, beware. He is not down for your stupid nonsense. He is not down. He ain't down to clown like our friend Jason Allenhammer says. You're going to get on. Watch as a defending champion coach explain why he doesn't care about field pressure from members of the Boston media to perform well. We're either going to win or we're not. 40 years from now, none of you invited to my funeral, and that's it. Let's hear from Mazzulla.
The Boston sports world where it is, like Jay was saying, pressure from media and fans and all that stuff, but you are keeping it very human, like we're all gonna die soon and all of that stuff. Like, how do you bridge that? Because you have to live in both worlds.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
I just don't look at it as pressure. Because like a Boston media member or somebody expecting me to win, like they don't have a weapon, like they're not gonna like come after me if we don't win. Like they're saying words, so like they don't mean anything. They're just words. You're just saying them because you have to say them. You're contractually obligated to write a 500-page article after or word article after. They're just words. You can't do anything, and so it's just a made-up word. We don't have a pressure. If we lose, we're not losing our life. Like we're not surgeons. We're not like in the military. We coach basketball for a living. And no one's putting more pressure and expectations than we are on ourselves. And it's like we have a responsibility and we have an ownership. And like I ask guys all the time, like, would you rather have someone expect you to lose or win? Like if you came up to me and be like, man, I really expected you to lose that game, I would be pissed. But it's like, if you come up to me like, you should have won that game, it's like, yeah, that's what we signed up for, So I think it's just the perspective of how you look at it and like the truth of it,
But words have power.
No, they don't if you let them. Like, if you allow words to take your personal power, then yes. So I don't allow words to take my personal power. And, like, that's just important. Like, words don't have... They only have power if you allow them to. And, like, that's what I try to teach my kids. Is, like, I don't give a shit what someone says to you. Like, did you allow that to have an impact on you? Like, he didn't put his hands on you. He didn't touch you. He didn't, like, do anything. He said something to you. So now you have a choice to, like, decide how you're going to interpret that. So, like, it's not pressure. There's nothing anyone in this circle can do to me that's going to impact my identity and who I am as a person or a coach. We're either going to win or we're not, and 40 years from now, none of you are invited to my funeral, and that's it. That's it.
Nah, that's a great answer. He's absolutely right. That's the thing that amazes me about the world today. We so let words impact. Well, he said this 30 years ago. Really? Well, 10 years ago, he did this, really? Well, you remember when he said, sticks and stones can break my bones and words can never hurt me. Boy, is that true, and I applaud Joe Mazzulla. Joe Mazzulla has always stood up to dumbasses. Brad Stevens hired Joe Mazzulla, and it was a bit of a surprise. But it was also a bit of a surprise when Butler hired Brad Stevens. I remember it. I'm like, man, good for him. I didn't really know Brad. I knew him a little, not well. But I remember when I first met him and went to practice, that kind of thing, I'm like, wow, this guy's got it. Joe Mazzulla, I remember as a player on really good West Virginia teams under John Beilein. John Beilein at West Virginia, after I left, did the best coaching job I've ever seen in college basketball, bringing West Virginia an absolute dumpster fire. Now, they took 8 or 10 days to clean it up after I left. But John Beilein, led by Mazzulla and others, man, I tell you what, hell of a job. Great job as a player and as a coach. But I didn't know him until these press conferences, and he's the best coach to listen to in the country. So many of these coaches are full of shit. He is not. And he guides his life by faith, which I dig. I'm not strong enough to do that. See, once in a while I will, and then I slip, and then I forget, and then I come back. Not him. Joe Mazzulla guides his entire life by it, so words aren't going to bother anybody. It just fascinates me how much we allow words to impact us. Words. My mother said it all of the time. Daniel, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Boy, is that true. God, is that true. Really? He said this to me. It's like on Twitter. When somebody comes at me, invariably, I'll look at who they are. all the time it's either a Michigan State angry person that didn't get into IU or somebody whose politics is siding with Harris or liberals. It's always the same. Always. It never deviates from that. It's not, in my view, personal. It's just they differ from me, so they have to come back at me and come back at me nasty. I get it. Doesn't bother you. You just kind of laugh and move it along, or you respond and laugh and move it along. Dan Campbell says he is preparing not to have Jameson Williams for the next couple of games because the Detroit Lions wide receiver is reportedly set to be suspended for 2 games for violating the league's substance abuse policy, performance-enhancing drugs. It's the second time in his career he's been suspended by the league. Last time he got 4 games. Why? Why, you ask? For gambling. I wonder this. I don't think this is true, but I wonder how many times do you get suspended for a variety of things before the combination of all of those things leads to a bigger suspension? Meaning, well, if they say, all right, I'm going to suspend you for gambling. Okay. Then they say, you did that. That's great. You did that. Now we're going to suspend you for performance-enhancing drugs. Okay. All right. I mean, how much of the total does it all of a sudden become like, we've suspended you for 3 things. We're going to put a blanket on this and suspend you for 10 games. This guy, remember Nick Saban? Do you remember? Well, Nick Saban, that's who this guy played for. Now people are deeming that Nick Saban never had a problem with anything. They forget Jermaine Burton slapped a girl on the field after an upset loss. They forget, here's this guy, all kind of problems, whether it's gambling or drugs, whatever. I mean, it's fascinating to me, is it not? Man, St. Nick, now everybody says, well, we got a discipline problem at Alabama. You've always had a discipline problem at Alabama. I mean, seriously, what are you talking about? I can't really say anything about it until the league gives judgment and it comes out on their end. I'm not supposed to really comment on it. All I can tell you is we're prepared to not have him, and we'll be fine. That's why we've got Khalif Raymond, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, TP, Tim Patrick, Allen Robinson, among other things, with David Montgomery. And Gibbs will be fine. We'll move on. The thing comes down to, if it does, when it does, we'll be fine. That's Dan Campbell. See, I like Dan Campbell. I like Dan Campbell a lot. I think Dan Campbell's pretty cool. I like him, and I like Joe Mazzulla. Williams was previously suspended for 6 games last year for violating the league's gambling policy by betting on other sports while at the team's facility or hotel. It hits me out of the blue, and it hit a couple other players around the league. And my team out of the blue. Hey, I didn't know. What are you talking about? What? Wait. Oh, yeah, there's that big sign right there in the facility. There's that big sign right there. Oh, yeah, out of the blue. I wasn't aware of this situation, but as it happened, like I said, I took it on the chin. Oh, you're a victim? I'm ready to move forward. As things moved on, I got the consequences. That's been my whole plan, moving forward from things and just looking at better days. Yeah. Hell yeah. All right. You go, son. Look, I'm a man. No one can judge me. I'm moving forward. Those are the 3 things. The 3 things that athletes say. Look, I'm a man. No one can judge me but God. And I'm moving forward. Dudes could rob and rape. And that's what NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL players would say. I'm a man. I'm moving forward. I can't look at the past. Only God can judge me. Yeah, good for you. Hey, Bill Belichick is sparring on social media. I'm kind of digging this. Belichick's been all over the place, man. Belichick's got the 23-year-old girlfriend. I saw a picture of her, and I couldn't imagine being her father, looking at Belichick bouncing up and down on top of my daughter. Like, what are we doing? Dude's 73. Come on, honey. Let's go. Let's figure that out. Ugh. Anyway, Belichick, he has made multiple comments on both the Giants and the New England Patriots. Hey, preface all this, Gerard Mayo called Belichick's ex-defense, Mayo's current defense and team, soft. Gerard Mayo is the head coach. You could tell, at least I could tell, at the press conference with Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick, they didn't like each other. You could tell by the comments, the passive-aggressive comments, that Gerard Mayo was trying to distance himself from Belichick. Here's Belichick, courtesy of the Pat McAfee Show.
The Giants thing, I don't really understand. He was their best player. For a couple $1 million more, they could have kept him, I guess. Instead they got a guard or somebody, I don't know. The offensive line doesn't look very good. I mean, they're playing a guy at left tackle who shouldn't be playing left tackle. Evan Neal is drafted in the first round. He doesn't play. They have some UFA guards that are pretty suspect. It's a tough line. And honestly, I thought that the quarterback is trying to hang in there. It's been tough sledding.
Good luck, Giants fans.
Good
luck, Giants fans.
Giants 100.
It'll turn around.
This would be a big one for him this week in Pittsburgh, right? They play Pittsburgh coming up Monday night.
Danny's starting.
Right.
Right.
So,
Danny's starting. That means Daniel Jones, who start. He is so bad. Like, a side note, look, I'm not going to lie to you. If you watch a game with me, you're going to get an education in any sport. You just are. I'm sorry. I know that sounds arrogant, but that's just the way it is. And a couple days ago, or like last week or 2 weeks ago, I'm watching a game with Lee. Daniel Jones gets the ball back, completes a couple passes, and she's like, wow, this could end up. I go, no chance. He's not good enough unless they break one wide open like a slant that goes for 80 yards. He can't do it. About 3 plays later, interception. How'd you know that? I go, it's just who I am. Seriously. The world of sports is wasting not having me on the sideline somewhere, not having me in the booth, but this is the best thing ever right here. But I'm just telling you, it is what it is. When I tell you it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Belichick not happy. He's going to take another shot at Gerard Mayo on Tom Brady's podcast. Tom Brady has a podcast. All these guys are doing great stuff. Like Brady, I don't think is very good on games. He kind of sounds Bill Walton-ish in a little bit of ways. But I like the fact that Belichick is not afraid to come out and say stuff. I think it's great. Here's Belichick on the Tom Brady podcast talking about Mayo.
Hey, Coach, have you ever had a soft team?
Look, I think when you criticize your team publicly like that, it doesn't always go over well. Not every coach has their own style, and maybe sometimes that can be effective and all. But ultimately, I always felt like when the team played bad, that was my responsibility too. I mean, we might have had bad playing, but we had bad coaching that led to bad playing. So I think it's always best to kind of take a look at yourself and do what you can do to help the team, and then if you have constructive criticism as a coach, that's your job. But I don't know. Last year the Patriots led the league in rushing defense yards per carry, number 1 in the league. This year they're 26th or whatever it is. It's the same players. I don't think that those players on defense are soft, but they haven't stopped the run very well this year.
I would be fascinated to go back and look and see if Belichick ever really did criticize his players publicly. We all have this thing about Belichick that when he talked in a press conference, it was basically grunts looking down at everybody going, and we're on to the Giants. Yeah, well, that's great, but we're on to the Giants. That's kind of how we all feel. But I wonder, and I actually tried to look this up earlier this morning, and I couldn't really find, and I'm not the best. Like, I am not very good. I know what I'm not good at. I'm not very good at the internet. I Google stuff, and that's the extent. I'm not very good at using keywords to find different things. But I would be curious if Belichick, in all his time as a coach, particularly early as a coach, ever really criticized his team. Gerard Mayo thinks, and maybe he's right, we're going to see. He thinks by saying that in the media that he's going to get to his players. Remember, Coaches will always say, and Belichick being one of them, I use the media to get points across to my team. Well, let's be honest. You got to give Gerard Mayo the same leeway. Maybe Gerard Mayo privately has talked about this defense, his defense being soft. Maybe he's fed up. And you know what? My last resort is I'm going to go to the media. I'm going to go tell the media and the world that my defense is soft. I've tried everything else. I've talked to them. I've shown them. I've ripped them. I've been nice to them. I've done whatever I've needed to do. I've brought guys in. I've gotten rid of guys, and it hasn't worked. We're still soft. So Belichick may not think they're soft, but again, I think he would tell you this. He's not there every day. Sure, he watches the games, but he's not there every day. And there's a big difference in being there every day. And even though you were there every day for 20-some years or whatever it was, not being there this year, there is a difference. So I'm going to give Mayo a little bit of time here, a little bit of grace here. Maybe he's just fed up. And Belichick knows that. I mean, make no mistake. Belichick absolutely knows that. He's just still salty. And good for him, man. I don't blame him. He's just still salty that he doesn't coach the New England Patriots, and he's especially salty that he was dumped so unceremoniously by a guy I'm not sure he really respects. Just my opinion. More than a year after he was let go by ESPN, college football analyst, friend of our show, David Pollack, appreciates being freed from the mothership, preaching the positives of being detached from Disney's sports brand because of their biased agenda between liberal and conservative commentators. We all feel that way. I actually kind of led the charge. When I left ESPN, people said I got fired because I had, some people on my ass. But the truth of the matter is, once I got talking to Clay and I understood that the Big Ten was out at ESPN, and I knew that Benetti and others were out at ESPN, I'm like, ooh, baby, I better find a place to go. And thank goodness I found this place. It's been great. Awesome. Best job I've ever had. Best team I've ever worked with. And then all of a sudden you saw what happened with Sage, David Pollack, and others. And we all feel the same way. It's nice to be able to, even though once in a while Gary has to temper me down. Gary has to say, hey, dumbass, why'd you put that on Twitter? I get it. I do. But it's nice to be able to be involved in the world that we live in. The world of politics, the world socially, the world of sports. It's great. And Pollack feels the same way. So does Sage. Here's David Pollack talking about that.
Listen, I'm not saying that they always said that to me, but it was very clear. Like your opinions you post on social media, while they are yours, they also represent us. And so we are taking that into account. And so you 100% know that. And I'll say this, being critical of myself, like I was absolutely worried about what I said so I didn't get fired. And I think that's a bad thing, man. I think that's a bad job by me, a really bad job by me. And I've been very thankful now that I've been fired because it's opened up me to be able to talk about whatever the subject is in a truthful manner. And that is really fun. And I'm definitely going to make sure that I take advantage of it because, we got a lot of stuff going on that, I want to hear from certain people and I want to hear a biblical perspective and I want to hear different perspectives besides people that when you have something to lose, Jason, and you can't talk about something, like I don't trust your opinion. Like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you literally, that they can't necessarily say exactly. Dan Orlovsky's a great point. Like he said what he said, completely his beliefs, what he wanted to say. And then all of a sudden he's like, wait a minute, I take it down because I don't want to get in trouble. And I'm afraid that I'll get in trouble. So it's freeing. It's good. I wish I wasn't a coward. I wish I'd had the onions to do it when I had the opportunity when I was at ESPN.
He's right. He's right. I never worried about getting fired for what I said on the air. I worried about getting fired from what I said on my radio show, or I worried about getting fired for what I said on Twitter, which is really stupid. But the truth of the matter is, for a white guy, let's be honest, if you're black, you say whatever you want. But for a white guy at ESPN, every white guy knows at ESPN, you got to shut up. Now, Herbie may be different. Herbie maybe is different. I don't know. And I do know this, though. People really appreciated Kirk Herbstreit coming on our show and speaking the way he did. In fact, every day, this is still true, every day we did a thing on Instagram. And it was Herbie, and maybe we can play it at the end of the day. I don't know. If you guys still have that piece that we did on Herbie, I'll send it to you. But this is true every day. Kirk Herbstreit speaking on our show about I don't give a I've held my tongue too long. On this phone, I get alerts. And the alerts, boom, boom, boom. Somebody reacted to an Instagram post. And it's always about Herbie speaking the truth. Now, you're black at ESPN, you say whatever you want. You know, Tom Lukenbill and I were talking off air. He said, yeah, we all know that there are different rules for different people. That's not being critical of ESPN. That's a fact. I mean, there's different rules for different people in business. But everybody that works at ESPN understands that. I think everybody here that works at OutKick, in my opinion, is kind of like, we don't care as long as you're being honest. Don't lie. That's kind of the only thing. Don't lie about a source. Don't lie about anything. Be honest. Give your view, but don't lie. Seems pretty reasonable. Anyway, the insufferable and phony as hell now, Mark Cuban, says President Biden and VP Harris let in over 10 million illegal immigrants, listen to this, because their hearts were too big. During a recent interview with CNN, while also arguing that Harris would be better for the border than Trump, I cannot imagine a world where that's true, and I cannot imagine why Mark Cuban is involving himself in such an unpopular and frankly false opinion. Now, I hesitate to say false opinion because an opinion is an opinion, right? I mean, that's what it is. But the fact of the matter is, it is ridiculous to even suggest that. It's dishonest. Here's Cuban.
So when it comes to criminalizing and not criminalizing crossing the border, I mean, that is just so stark, but you view that as an evolution.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's my opinion. I'm not speaking for the campaign with this.
Yeah.
I thought their hearts were too big when Joe came into office, that they didn't know how many people would cross the border, and it got away from them. But they figured it out. They learned. And what did they do? He put together an executive order, and now the number of border crossings is down to where they were under Trump, maybe a little lower. She says she's going to sign the border bill, which is very clear where she stands now. But let me tell you, Aaron, the most important thing that has not been discussed, Donald Trump and Kamala both have said when it comes to illegals that are in the country that have violated the law, that are criminals, they're going to deport them. Donald Trump hasn't said what he's going to do to deport anybody else.
Oh, well, I mean, honest to God. I mean, I feel bad for Cuban. I really do. He's become an angry lesbian. Yeah, he just has. I mean, Donald Trump has been very clear about what he's going to do. Why do these people lie? Look, their hearts weren't too big. They wanted people in to vote. I mean, we all know this. We all understand. They gave in. You know what? I've always said there's a backstory. There's a massive backstory here. There is. There's a massive backstory.